What's up, W Sports Podcast? Jimothy and Tubby, we are back at it again because we just had our rivalry weekend in college football. And with rivalries, sometimes come fights. And man, was it an intense weekend, even bled over into the NFL. So, Tubby, welcome back to the show, man.
Man, there were some hectic games this weekend.
Yeah, it was wild. Yeah, it's starting it right off the bat. Big noon kickoff with Ohio State and Michigan. Ohio State being a three-score favorite. In the last 22 meetings going into this one, you probably, if you watched any of this game, you saw this stat because they were absolutely, toward the ends of it, just talking about it a ton. Whoever has the most rushing yards has won this game for the last 2+ decades, and it
Mhm.
stands true after this one. Michigan wins 13-10 and outrushes Ohio State. What is your statement about Ohio State, Tubby, when it comes to this game, or Michigan, I guess?
Ohio State's they're a bunch of pretenders. This is the same thing we see every single year.
Yeah.
Ryan Day, outside of Michigan, is what they say he was 47-1
Hmm.
against the Big Ten.
Yeah.
He's
No.
one and
Yeah.
four against Michigan.
Hmm.
They just, I think one, it kind of speaks a little bit to how top heavy the Big Ten has been over the recent
100%.
few years, and also just speaks to the fact that when it comes to these big games, you can count on a Ryan Day team to not step up and perform like they should. With the talent that they have on that team, especially on the defensive side
Dude.
and the wide receivers you have, you should not be losing games, especially to a Michigan team that we have seen all year, and a Michigan team that gifted you two terrible turnovers in the red zone. I mean, that last one by Warren in the red zone when he has the
Hmm.
tight end wide open and he throws it straight to Jack Sawyer. It just kind of speaks to, I think, what their mindset is there at Ohio State. They're not killers. They don't know how to really just put the foot on the throat and go out there and just take out a team that is far superior than them. And it showed. It's shown over the last, well, since he's been the head coach.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is I don't. You said pretenders. I'm going to say Ohio State, and my tagline is soft. This is another one of those games
Yep.
where they just cannot outmuscle a team that doesn't even have Donovan Edwards, who
Yeah.
got hurt in this game, goes 4 rushes for 11 yards. They only give up on the passing game 9 for 16 for 62 yards, 2 interceptions. There's no reason why they should have lost this game outside of missing 2 field goals that were not even long field. I mean, it was a
Yeah.
disaster on that game, but they didn't run the ball effectively. They didn't run the ball enough.
Mm-mm.
They had bad turnovers on their own side. But that's the thing is when you get to this game, you cannot rely on a guy like Will Howard, who's a good quarterback in college football, but he is not a game changer. Is we
No.
just haven't seen it. We've seen him have the opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
and they have too talented of a backfield to not run the ball better. I
Yeah.
mean, this is I think they said this is the highest paid team in the country.
Oh yeah. They dished out a lot of money in the transfer portal this last
Mm.
year, but I think you got a team in Michigan that had to replace every single starter on their offensive line, and a team in Michigan that we have seen not be as good defensive wise as we, or I mean offensive line wise, that we come to to expect with Sharon Moore being a really good offensive line coach, and they have struggled all year on that offense line, and they were able to push your defensive line that has two guys that are projected to be in the first two rounds
Hmm.
just at will all game.
Yeah. Yeah, it was bad. Let me just give you a little bowl preview. This is what the people want. They want Michigan versus Oklahoma in a bowl game. The final score is going to be 3-0. It's going to be great.
Oh gosh, that would be one of the worst bowl games ever.
Two blue bloods, though. I'm just saying. Like,
Yeah,
people would tune into that game and they have no business to. It would be just a defensive machine. Maybe the score would be 14-10 and the defense scored all but 3 points. I could see that happening.
it'd be
Yeah,
like OU FSU national championship 2001, where
exactly.
it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
14-3, 14-2 because Oklahoma gave
Safety.
them a safety.
Yeah, the disrespect. Yeah, it could be like that. All that said, Ohio State is still going to make the playoff because they're ranked
Yeah,
number 2. Their only losses are against a rivalry, Michigan, and obviously Oregon, who's the only other loss that Ryan Day has.
yeah,
And here's the thing about Oregon is they are not a soft team. This
No.
team typically hits you in the mouth. They are physical. This is not the Oregon team that we saw growing up. This is a very
Hmm.
different Dan Lanning coach team that is very physical and very tough. So I believe in them. This is another reason why they lost. Penn
Yep.
State is going to be in the Big Ten championship. How many times have they been in the Big Ten championship? Do you know?
I couldn't even tell you.
Twice. This will be the second time. It's absolutely ridiculous, and that's a testament to why this division is so top heavy, and why
Hmm.
divisions, kind of tough because Penn State can never win that game because Penn
Yeah.
State is tough, but they don't have the explosiveness that Ohio State does. Like those two teams,
No.
if one of them, if they could merge, they would
Yeah.
be a
No. Yeah.
lot better.
Yeah. Definitely.
But Penn State versus Oregon, we'll do a preview of obviously this upcoming week before all those happen. But they dominated Maryland, and really outside of their loss, to
Hmm.
Ohio State this year, that seems like this is a team that should make the playoff as well. We should have 3 Big Ten teams making the
Yeah.
playoff.
Maybe 4. Indiana.
Oh, that's true. Wait, Indiana's playing. No, they're
No.
not. They
No.
lost because
Yeah.
yeah,
They
that's
had
right.
to. They needed Penn State to
Right.
lose.
Yeah, I was like, oh wow, a 3-team Big Ten championship. Just hear me out.
Just alternate. All right, this team's on defense now. This team's on offense, and then we'll kind of mix it up a little bit as we go.
Yeah. So you have those 2 games, obviously. Um, Ryan Day, we talked about if he lost this game, he's on the hot seat. I do think his seat's getting a little bit warmer because
Hmm.
he just went a full college student's career with not a win against Michigan. That's a pretty big deal. You move from that, you have 3 of the top 5 teams are Big Ten teams, which is saying something. And then Texas, they took care of business with Texas A&M. They just could Texas A&M. I think their only score was off of a long defensive return.
Yep.
They could not get their offense to get the ball in the end zone. Even that last play, that last one that they were trying to make it 17-14, I think they should have
Hmm.
kicked the field goal. Hear me out. I understand it, but you got to get 2, get the 1 for sure, and then go get the stop.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. Yeah, it was kind of. I don't know. It's not a game I was expecting. I was expecting more scoring in that game
Hmm.
because I don't think either. I mean, Texas A&M's had a decent defense most of the year outside of a couple of games, but for the most part, they haven't really been tested a whole lot, kind of like Texas. So I thought both teams would probably score, in the 30s. It'd be a high
Hmm.
scoring game, and it was nothing of the sort.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. For a second there, it looked. Arch Manning had to rush because
Hmm.
the sore ankle, not hurt ankle, but sore ankle
Yeah.
from Quinn Ewers. But I mean, they took care of business. Texas again. You know, I think it's funny is like Texas A&M. This is their Super Bowl, and we talked about it earlier this year. If they lose
Hmm.
to Texas, the season's a failure. It was the first time that they've met since 2011.
Hmm.
Um, I'll let it build up to the hype. I still don't understand why it's such a big rivalry outside of what was it, the Big South back in the day.
Yeah.
But you know,
Yeah. I don't either. I mean, Texas A&M's never really been super competitive for the
yeah,
most part. They've had a couple, good years here and there where they were competitive, but they were never anything special. So I don't quite understand it if it's just because it's Texas, inside the, Texas state lines or something. I don't know, but yeah, it doesn't seem like it should be as big of a rivalry as they make it out to be.
yeah. Notre Dame does go out and I mean, 49-35. This game was closer for most of the game until the last 2 pick sixes and a touchdown. There's literally 21 points scored in like the last 3.5 minutes. It was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Notre Dame, they're going to host a game for sure in week 1. They've sealed the deal on that one. I think we've talked about this. This is a dangerous team. Do you think the extra rest? I mean, they're going to have like 3 weeks before they play. Is that actually a harder thing for them, a challenge, because they don't have a conference championship week to stay in gear, not get hurt, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, no, yeah, it makes it interesting because like you said, they won't have that. They'll have an extra week off, so they'll be able to get guys healthy. But then gives them a chance to get out of rhythm, not being having in-game speed and plays and stuff. So it definitely could bite them in the butt at the
Hmm.
end. We've seen it happen quite often in
Hmm.
sports where you have that extra week off and it doesn't pay off like you would hope it would, and it usually turns around and bites you.
Yeah, no joke. So if you look at that, they're going to get some rest. They had Miami and SMU and Clemson were in a 3-way battle for who is going to be in the ACC championship game this next week. Obviously, SMU clinched. They even dominate Cal. this week. Remember when Cal beat Auburn earlier this year? I mean,
Yeah.
geez, now look at this team. Clemson loses to South Carolina, but because Miami does the most Miami thing in a week that they could have clinched, they lose. They now we have a Clemson versus SMU matchup for that. But I want to go back to Miami. Is this still a playoff caliber team because of um, the Ohio State loss plus the chance that Indiana may not make it? I mean, just the unknowns of what's out there.
I don't think that they should, just because they're honestly lucky they don't have 5 losses right now. I mean,
Yeah.
that game against Virginia Tech, one of the most questionable overturns of a play that you couldn't see, and the fact that they overturned it, they should have lost that game. Should have lost when they went out west. Who was it against? It was against Cal or Stanford, one of the two, where they barely won that game, and they had to come from behind to win that game. A competitive team. Granted, the record, will probably be able to push them in. I don't think that they deserve to be in the playoffs.
Yeah. So they're going to need obviously some help to get in.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of right teams lose, they might have a pathway into it because Clemson was 12 going into this weekend. They lost to a good South Carolina team, but they were in a position to win and lost it.
Mm-hmm.
The other team that I was going to mention that did lose this week, did lose was Tulane, and you actually
Mm-hmm.
called this on the episode. Like, watch out for
Yeah.
Memphis. Memphis took care of business on
Yep.
Thanksgiving, 34-24. Obviously, Georgia, Boise State, Ole Miss still on the outside knocking, trying to get in.
Mm-hmm.
At 14, do you think Ole Miss has a better case than Miami?
I do, just because of the SEC.
Well, okay.
I mean that it's going to be, people are going, oh, the SEC bias, but it's the truth. I mean, it really
It's true.
is.
Yeah.
Look at who Ole Miss has beaten and who they've played this year. Now go look at who Miami's played and who they've beaten. It and then also, like I've said, they very well could have 5 losses right now.
Mm,
They've gotten lucky with some terrible ref, calls, from the ref, overturn, plays. They've gotten really lucky, and this year, granted, they have tripped up against a couple teams they should have won. It should have beat, but that's the way the SEC was this year. They cannibalized each other.
hmm Well, and here's the complicated part about these teams that are in that 10. I would not 10. I'm going to say that. Yeah, I'm going to say the 10 to 14 range
Mm-hmm.
is that they may miss it because going to call it what it is. Army wins, UNLV wins, and then Arizona State or Iowa State wins. That's three teams that are all outside of the top
Outside.
12 right now. Even if
Mm-hmm.
Tulane wins, they're outside the top 12 right now. And you could
Yeah.
see them all take a spot, or one of them at least take a spot. If
Yeah.
Boise wins, Tulane wins. I mean, that's when it gets complicated. All the different things. But
Yeah.
obviously, the Big 12 is going to get a team, and one of those right now is in the top 12. So you're going to have possibly two spots
Yeah.
taken up. And you're going to be like, what the heck? So it's going to get kind of complicated and people are going to be confused. But it's our first year with 12 teams. And that's what's going to be nice about it. But
What you do, someone's going to be crying.
someone's going to be crying.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah, hopefully. In the back of my mind, I kind of want it to be Georgia because Georgia should have lost to Georgia Tech. We texted
Yep.
back and forth. 8 overtimes is obviously ridiculous. Stop calling it different overtimes. Just keep going back and forth. Call it sudden death.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But they should have lost. I don't know why Georgia Tech had 7 overtimes and they didn't know how to run the ball, and that's why you got in this position anyway to win. They should have won the game. I
Right.
think Georgia is a really fragile team, and I would
Mm-hmm.
if I was picking this, and we're not yet, and obviously it may
Mm-hmm.
change, but I'm picking Texas in this game right now.
I mean, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Georgia loses, they go, 3 losses. What happens with them and Miami and Ole Miss, and I think you can throw South Carolina in there, Alabama. I mean, it's going to be a cluster
Mm-hmm.
there around that final couple of spots. Who gets in?
Yeah. Uh, Now we'll talk more about this as we get there. But is there a team that's the hottest team right now? We talked about Notre Dame quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't talked about Oregon nearly enough as how they're the only undefeated team left. But is there a team maybe that you're looking at that they're on fire, they're clicking right now, I don't want to play them. Kind of thinking back like last year, it was Arizona Wildcats with Noah Fafita and just what they were doing at the end of the year.
No. I mean,
Fair.
like I said, we talked about Notre Dame already, so I feel like I can't say Notre Dame or Oregon because Oregon is the only undefeated team right now. But other than that, there's really just not a team right now. Maybe South Carolina, but we don't think South Carolina is going to get in. So, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't really matter at that point. I mean,
I
because
think,
South Carolina is playing really good football.
yeah, and I think they have a case. I would be
I
willing to
absolutely,
listen to it.
I agree. I think they have more of a case than Alabama does.
Yeah. I would like to say Arizona State might be one of those sneaky teams that's just going to be annoying. They dominated
Yeah.
Arizona this last week. They beat BYU at home. They beat K-State. Before that, though, they lost to Cincinnati and then they went on to dominate Oklahoma State and UCF.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's going to take a lot for them tomorrow or this next week at Iowa State. I think it's going to be a
Mm-hmm.
good matchup. But looking again, and we talked about this last week, the new faces in the conference championships. It's a wild time.
Yeah, there's only been 4 times ever that teams have won their conference in the first year that they joined that conference. You have a chance at four teams
Hmm.
potentially this year could win all 4 major
Yeah.
conference championships.
Well, I just want to know, what does it take to get Colorado in the top 12?
Not losing to Kansas State.
Dang it. Well, all right. Fair enough.
Yeah, that did it for them.
Yep, that did him. All right. Well, Tubby, we have one more thing. Whoops. We have
We do.
one more announcement. This was our November giveaway. Tubby, you said you have a winner selected.
We do. I drew a winner this morning, and
Let's
the
go.
winner of the signed Aaron Jones jersey.
Is it me? Is it me? Is it me?
No.
Oh, okay. I guess I'm disqualified. That's fine.
Yeah, we weren't entered, but it is Carson Hearn filmmaker.
Okay. All right.
So
Let's go.
Carson Hearn filmmaker. If you hear this, message me on our Instagram page at the.w.podcast. Send me your information, and I will get this jersey out to you this week.
That is right. I like that. Yeah. So, and Tubby, what's the easiest way to get this free giveaway? Because we have one each month. What's the best way to do this?
Simple. One step. You hit that subscribe button on YouTube. That's it.
That's it. Wow.
That's it.
Okay. So here's the best news of all. I mean, we have a Cyber Monday deal going as this is released. If you subscribe right now, it's absolutely free forever. Just so
Yeah.
you know.
Lifetime subscription, no contracts.
Yeah,
I mean, why not get your sports information for free?
that's true. I'm just saying, it's a great podcast. We appreciate every single one of y'all who have already hit subscribe, who've been supporting the show. Share the show with someone new this holiday season. That would be a great gift to us as the W Sports Podcast hosts. We appreciate every one of y'all. But till then, we'll see y'all next time.
See ya.
See ya.